Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm a software engineer making videos which respect people's time about tools for programmers, building things for the web. And I wanted to speak this week about the Svelte Fall Summit 2021 and more generally about the state of Svelte as of December 2021. Day to day, I'm building React apps using the amazing Next.js framework. I love the React ecosystem, but recently I was intrigued by all of the interesting developments surrounding Svelte, and not really being familiar with it, I decided to investigate, and I was very excited by what I discovered. My overall impression is that Svelte seems to be in a similar place now as the Rust programming language was a few years ago. Named as the most loved tool in its category in a Stack Overflow survey, Svelte is currently very beloved by its still comparably small community of users. But, as was the case with Rust a few years ago, Svelte seems almost destined for growth and success. In my eyes, Svelte is currently the top contender to disrupt the React Vue duopoly of JavaScript UI libraries. In the next few years, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Svelte became the dominant way to build for the web, and here are my top 10 reasons for why I think that's the case. Number 10 on my list is the growing ecosystem. There's a monthly What's New in Svelte blog post, which is regularly filled with announcements of new and interesting projects in the Svelte ecosystem. I think part of the reason why this is the case is the current excitement around Svelte, but I'm also convinced that the other part has to do with the Svelte technical architecture, which I'm going to cover in later parts of this list. The Svelte Fall Summit 2021 has seen announcements of several libraries built specifically to be used with Svelte. So there's Svelte Cubed, a free.js component library for Svelte written by Rich Harris, the creator of Svelte. Svelte FSM, a tiny finite state machine library for Svelte. Several static site generation tools, so Primo, Plenty, Slinkity, and a few self-standing open source projects have demoed their support for Svelte during the summit. Along them, Vest, a tool, a framework for form validation, and plugin icons, a library for enabling the universal access to tens of thousands of SVG icons. Coming in at number 9 for me are Svelte Stores. So Svelte takes a different approach to React when it comes to the application global state. While React has a very unopinionated stance on this topic, offering only a loosely coupled assortment of utilities that a developer needs to integrate correctly how they see fit, Svelte offers an opinionated default approach in the form of Svelte Stores, which feel like a natural extension to JavaScript modules. In my opinion, this should result in higher productivity when developing with Svelte, since the application global state is such a common feature that it ends up getting reinvented unnecessarily so many times. Number 8 on my list is the fact that Svelte is a compiler, as opposed to being a library or a framework in the sense that React and Vue are. In a React app, the React library is sent to the browser as part of the JavaScript bundle alongside the application code, while Svelte compiles the application down to vanilla JavaScript, and the browsers themselves don't interact with Svelte at all. Due to not being present in the browser, Svelte is also thought of as being a disappearing framework. This approach has already been proven to improve the performance and the overall developer experience. At number 7 on my list is Svelte's true reactivity. So in React, reactivity is tightly coupled to setting state and rendering the UI. In Svelte, reactivity is more fundamental and can apply to any JavaScript value at any time, independent of component renders. Another major difference in how React and Svelte treat reactivity can be seen in the way that a component tree is rendered in each of them. In React, an update to the state of a top-level component could cause a re-render of the entire component tree. To achieve more optimized rendering performance, developers could opt out of renders by using React.memo and useMemo and use callback hooks. In Svelte, for updates to propagate to the UI, the developer needs to opt into the updates explicitly, which makes Svelte's default behavior more performant than the one in React. The 6th biggest reason why I think that Svelte is the future is Svelte's embedability. So Guillermo, Vercel's CEO, calls this property of Svelte fractality. This term describes that Svelte can incrementally scale from being embedded in a large software project through to forming a single page application or even implementing an entire multiplayer application with the use of SvelteKit. Multiple speakers during the summit have shown how easy it is to embed Svelte into an existing application, whether it's PHP, React, or anything else. We've also seen a demo in which React was embedded into Svelte, proving that Svelte's embedability goes both ways. At number 5 for me is Vercel's vision for Svelte. So Rich Harris, the creator of Svelte, has recently joined Vercel, and this sent waves around the internet. So Vercel is the company behind Next.js and the Vercel serverless platform. Their mission is to empower developers to make the web better. So during the summit, Guillermo, the CEO of Vercel, shared his vision for the future of web app development, which I would summarize as, so number 1, Vercel is looking to achieve the fewest number of keystrokes from an idea to an app, and they see Svelte as playing a key role in this. And then number 2, Vercel is all about the edge, and they're looking to put Svelte apps everywhere, so closer to users. I'd say credit to Guillermo for realizing what the future will look like and steering Vercel in what I believe to be the right direction. And I'd say that this decision is particularly impressive in light of the fact that SvelteKit is a direct competitor to Vercel's own Next.js. So out of all the companies that lead the new wave of innovation in web app development, among which I primarily count Vercel and Netlify and Cloudflare, Vercel seems to be particularly willing to lead the shaping of developer tools that the entire community depends on in an open way. Number 4 is Svelte's gentle learning curve. A significant amount of anecdotal experience, including my own, backs the idea that it's easier to learn Svelte than it is to learn React or Vue. Svelte seems to offer a middle ground between using a full-blown UI framework and using vanilla JavaScript, because Svelte concepts build directly upon web technologies and APIs available in every browser. Because Svelte is a thin layer on top of the existing web technologies, this makes it particularly suitable for teaching HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And a repeating theme throughout the Svelte Summit was the idea that development with Svelte is fun, because Svelte offers a great mix of, number 1, the power of a modern declarative UI framework with built-in support for animations, transitions, and state management. And then number 2, unhindered access to the underlying technologies which make the web the awesome platform that it is. Number 3 on my list is SvelteKit, Svelte's own post-Jamstack hybrid framework similar to Next.js. I think the big reason why React is so popular is the amazing tooling ecosystem built around it that includes Next.js, Gatsby, and Create React App. Svelte is on track to have an amazing tooling ecosystem as well, and the most prominent tool in this ecosystem is SvelteKit, and SvelteKit is to Svelte what Next.js is to React. SvelteKit is being prepared for 1.0.0 release, and a month ago it was reported that it's over 80% done. Internally, SvelteKit is powered by Vite.js and builds on the experience of a previous framework for Svelte called Sapper. Now that Rich Harris is at Vercel, I wouldn't be surprised if many of the great ideas from Next.js end up in SvelteKit and the other way around. And I think this can only benefit both the React and the Svelte development tooling. Innovation on the part of the SvelteKit, so it's not only a toolkit for app development, but it's also intended for the Svelte library development as well, meaning that both can be developed side by side within the same project, and then a developer has a choice of either deploying the app or publishing the library. Coming close to the top of my list, and the number 2 spot, are Svelte's Ergonomics. The ergonomics of a development tool is the key determining factor in the developer experience, and in this category, Svelte is objectively ahead of any other UI framework. So in React world, the move from class-based components to functional components with hooks has been hailed as a major improvement to the ergonomics of writing a React application. So in a similar way, it is now argued that when moving from React with hooks to Svelte, one is expected to see similar improvements to ergonomics. Svelte has kept the declarative nature of its predecessors, but offers the DX improvements in, number 1, there are fewer lines of boilerplate code, and then number 2, there is a better composability of the UI code with the other parts of the application. Having this in mind, the argument could be made that Svelte is the next generation framework after React and Vue, and that it has a very bright future indeed. At the top of my list, and the reason why I'm most excited about Svelte, is Svelte's performance. So being a compiler opens Svelte to performance improvements that are simply out of reach to the other UI frameworks. The obvious improvement being the fact that Svelte doesn't send its own UI library JavaScript bundle when an end user visits the page, and what is sent over the wire is the exact amount of JavaScript required for the dynamic features of the app, and nothing more. During Svelte Summit, we have seen the comparisons of the same app being built in Svelte, React, and Vue, and the Svelte app outperforms the other two libraries across all metrics, including code size, bundle size, first contentful paint, and the speed index. A major factor in Svelte's performance in the browser is the fact that Svelte has done away with the notion of a virtual DOM, reducing its memory footprint relative to the other frameworks. The systematic approach of Svelte's team to achieving the great performance outcomes across the board is also visible in the way that they've approached NPM packaging and managing their dependencies, which just shows a huge amount of mindfulness and care. So that was my top 10 reasons as to why I'm excited about the future of Svelte. Thank you for listening, and hopefully see you again next week.